Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. If you could please leave your name and affiliation in the chat when you have a moment.
Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Matt. Good morning, everyone. Happy to get started whenever it's the best time.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday and happy solar eclipse day to those who have plans for today. Very much looking forward to today for our conversation on industrial assessment centers. And great to see you, Clifton. So I know our time is short, so I'll pass it to Matt Bogosian for updates. That way we can learn from Clifton later. Matt, the
Thank
floor
you,
is yours.
Michelle. Thank you so much, as always. You can check out Michelle Burris from the Century Foundation on our podcast, Manufacturing an American Century, available on Spotify and all podcast platforms, as it is every Monday, 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central, 9:30 Mountain, and 8:30 Pacific. Welcome to our AMCC Weekly National Call. I'm Matt Bogosian, Executive Director of AMCC, which is a national nonprofit organization made up of mostly volunteers, one of which is the Century Foundation. And Michelle is a great partner from there. Another is the Northeast Midwest Institute, which is our fiscal agent in our partnership with the Economic Development Administration as the nation's manufacturing community of practice. These 30-minute calls have been happening for a decade, if you can believe it, every Monday. Short, efficient way for diverse stakeholders to increase community with and between regional and national leaders, BFFs from all kinds of federal agencies, NGOs, private players working together to strengthen the American project from the bottom up in manufacturing. It's part of a cultural change in America towards cooperation and community. Wonky folks, some of whom are are part of this network, call it an evolving complex system science. Intuitively, we know it as just wanting our siloed work to matter more, to be a part of something bigger. So it's a privilege to be a part of this network and have you all participating. Like Michelle said, if you put your name and affiliation in chat, that's really important. And feel free to drop other information in the chat. You all have your siloed work going on and are busy, and you're sharing your 30 minutes every week with us. We want to make the most of it. So we move very quickly, drop information, that is going to be useful to regional ecosystems across the country in the chat, get to know folks, share information, and it's challenging. It takes trust, it takes determination, it takes persistence. We're all doing it together. So go for it. No one owns this space. We don't. We're just trying to model how we can work better together, building the best science and best practices so our kids and grandkids have an increasingly better future. So, we're free, open source, and this 30-minute call goes with a weekly written AMCC update that goes out on email. So check that out. If you're not getting it, just send a note to David Van Sicklin, our operations director, or just drop something in the chat and he'll get you tied into that. And like Michelle said, we have BFFs from the U.S. Department of Energy here. They're going to give us a rundown on the expansion of their Industrial Assessment Center program. Very cool stuff. But before that, and as we do most Mondays, we're highlighting here a few of the items in the AMCC update that went out on Friday. So here's a couple of tidbits. There's a lot in there, but one of the things I wanted to highlight here on the call from the update is some of the things coming out from our friends at the U.S. Department of Treasury. They have awards for states of up to $10 million for technical assistance models that help disadvantaged businesses get legal, accounting, and financial advisory services. This is really interesting because my own background is in the law. Some of the things I've written for the American Bar Association, and you probably have all seen it, like not having these kinds of services, law, financial, accounting, they can be crippling to business success. So kudos to Treasury for focusing on that. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of effective models are for getting these kinds of services to our businesses and entrepreneurs out there who need them. So very cool that Treasury also has billions of dollars into this 48C tax credit program available for around this summer. So David's dropping stuff into the chat on these things. It's also in the AMCC update. The first round of these tax credits, $4 billion went out. So spread the word on those. Lots of other funding opportunities from DOE and others. We have lots of webinar and best practices info in the AMCC update from our friends at the Urban Manufacturing Alliance and fellow communities of practice. We have one in there. There's an indigenous communities community of practice. Some from some of our states, good information there from Connecticut. And we talk a lot about getting to kitchen tables, so parents and students and everyone kind of in regional ecosystems know about 21st century manufacturing. So I wanted to call out Buckley Brinkman and their work in Wisconsin to do these great video series in interviewing cool manufacturers in the area. And so that can be helpful on many fronts. And I think it's the kind of thing that can get to kitchen tables so people know what's really happening in terms of cool, 21st century manufacturing around the country. Lots of research we have in the AMCC update. For the most part, it's framed around the big 6 elements of what we believe to be kind of necessary for a thriving regional manufacturing ecosystem. So if you want to learn more about the big 6 items of thriving ecosystem, you can check those out on our website. And a lot of the research kind of gets at all 6 of those silos, overlapping silos, from workforce all the way through to capital access. So anyway, check that out and send us what you think would add value, to this community of practice, tools, tactics, research, whatever. Anything you think that'll help us strengthen, bottom up regional manufacturing in the American project. So that's a quick, very quick review of some of the cool things in the AMCC update. Thanks for putting your names and affiliation in chat and any other useful information. So now I want to turn it to our presenter for today from DOE, more specifically from the Office of Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains, affectionately known as MESC, Clifton Yee. He's on with us like most Mondays, but today he's going to tell us about the IAC expansion and getting manufacturers assessed so they can make important upgrades. Remember, we have about 250,000 manufacturers across the country. Nearly most of those are SMM, small and medium-sized manufacturers, and they're using, a lot of old technologies, but they're busy. We need to help them transition, make more money in the process, and here's some incentives for doing it. So Clifton, welcome. Thanks for being on and sharing what you got. Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Can you hear me okay?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Great. Let me share my screen. Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks to the AMCC team for this opportunity, but also for this wonderful convening of folks every Monday. So actually, I'll be talking about 2 funding opportunities through the ISC program. I'll try to be fast so we can leave time for Q&A, and also so people can go see the clips if that's on their agenda. Rare occurrence. So hopefully people are familiar, but the ISC program has been around for 40 years. Centers at universities, 4-year universities around the country, have traditionally conducted free energy assessments for regional small to medium-sized manufacturers. This is a win-win because the students at these centers get real-world hands-on training. These are the energy engineers of the future. And the SMMs, the manufacturers, get free energy assessments with reports for project improvements, efficiency upgrades, clean energy upgrades, that kind of thing. But thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, the program is growing and expanding. So there was already an expansion in round one where we moved beyond just four-year universities, but also started building ISCs at community colleges, trade schools, and union training programs. And we also had we built out a network of COEs, Centers of Excellence. These are kind of like leading ISCs that'll just kind of coordinate regional ISCs and develop best practices and new assessment styles and workforce curriculum, that kind of thing. So the first opportunity I want to talk about today is the expansion round two. So we have $24 million available to further expand the network, to build new IACs, to build new assessment centers at. But I want to point out this is not just for four-year universities. This is to expand to training programs, community colleges, kind of unconventional workforce development and education facilities. There's three tracks which you'll see online if you go to the website, and I'm sure the AMCC team can share these slides after. So you can either track one is for planning capacity building. So these are folks who are planning to building up to establishing an ISC in 1 or 2 years. There's a second track for folks who want to develop an ISC right now, and there's a consortia track for folks who want to kind of umbrella organizations that want to build anywhere between 5 to 15 ISCs at once. So, and cost share is generally not required. Full applications are due May 16th at 3 p.m. And you can kind of see the core objectives for the grant opportunity here. Training for high quality jobs, providing TA for local manufacturers, and actually having a community benefits impact, delivering benefits to the surrounding community. Right. So as I said, it's not just four-year universities. We're looking at industry-connected internships, apprenticeship programs, community college programs, that kind of thing. And as for the actual project in question, we're not also just talking about a traditional ISC, which conducts energy assessments, but also looking at new areas, paying instructors, developing training equipment, outreach recruitment partnerships, providing support for manufacturers for grant management. Here is the timeline. So this opportunity was announced in February. There is a office hours Q&A session next month. Full applications due in the middle of next month. Selections in July, and then kickoff in the fall. The link is below. I'll share it in the chat after I stop sharing my screen. But please apply and spread the word. Opportunity number two is the implementation grant program. And so for 40 years, the ISCs have provided energy assessments to manufacturers, provided an assessment report saying, hey, these are some ideas, recommendations to improve your facility. Now, thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, we have grant funding to back it up. So now folks who get a qualified energy assessment for one of three sources, which I'll go into in a little detail, can actually apply for grant funding to implement those recommendations. This is we have $400 million total. It's actually now a rolling open year-round application period. So basically SMMs will get an energy assessment from a qualified source. They can apply throughout the year, anytime. We'll review the applications quarterly and then award funding quarterly. The funds are up to $300,000. This is also new per funding round. So previously we had said it's a one-time grant. If you're one company applying, you get $300,000 max. Now you can get $300,000 thanks to legal clarification per funding round. So you can actually apply basically 4 times a year, 1.2 million, up to 1.2 million, as long as the funding is for different projects. It's also 50% cost share. That means that if you have a project or projects that cost 100K, we can give you 50K. You'll be responsible for the other 50K through non-federal sources. So internal capital, state, local programs, private loans, rebates, that kind of thing. And this is strictly for SMMs, small, medium-sized manufacturers. The criteria is established in law, so we don't have a lot of wiggle room there. And the actual numbers are in the fine text below. It has to do with number of employees, gross annual sales, and then annual energy bills. And so you can get you have to qualify for this grant funding. You have to get an assessment from one of 3 sources: the ISCs, which I've talked about, the DOE on-site energy taps, which is a new program. It was previously called the combined heat and power taps. Now they're on-site energy taps. They're focused on on-site energy broadly, so solar, geothermal, wind at manufacturing facilities. They'll provide an assessment that kind of focuses on those areas, or third-party assessors deemed equivalent by DOE. So this is actually also an alternate work stream. I'll go into more detail in the next couple slides, I think. So work stream 1. So you can apply for grant funding, basically, if you've got an assessment from one of these three sources. And this is for physical capital improvement projects. This is not, organizational changes. This is to fund new lighting, on-site solar, replacing a boiler, upgrading your HVAC system, physical capital improvements that actually reduce energy use, improve efficiency, reduce waste, reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And so workstream 2. So you actually, if you're a small to medium-sized manufacturer, you can apply for grant funding. If you're a third-party energy assessor, you can also apply to be qualified, such that your clients can be eligible for grant funding. So this is kind of a selling point for assessors. You won't get money directly from us, but you'll get this great pitch to market your assessments. You can say, hey, if you get one of our assessments, we'll provide you recommendations. You can actually then apply for grant funding through the program to implement the recommendations. And so we've qualified 19 third-party assessors to date. Some are state. It's also come interesting mix of programs. There are for-profits, nonprofits, university-based, state utility partnerships, state government partnerships, that kind of thing. The criteria is that you have to be able to share data with us, share best practices. The assessments should be comprehensive. They're not looking at just one system, like just focus on pumps or fans. We're looking at the whole facility, the whole industrial facility. And the recommendations have to be vendor agnostic. You can't say you must buy this Schneider Electric device. It has to be, you should, look at this kind of technology. And of course, we're looking for domestic entities. And we're trying to push for folks that the assessments ideally are free, but if not, not overly burdensome for SMMs. So this is how the program works in a nutshell. So if you're an SMM, you get an assessment from one of these sources. If it's the ISC or on-site taps, it will be free. Some of the third-party assessors are free. Once you have your assessment report in hand, you can apply for grant funding to implement recommendations. You can do this once a quarter, so $300,000 per quarter throughout the year. And then you can receive grant funding. And I'll point out actually both this opportunity and the ISC expansion. We're using this new, there's a lot of behind the scenes. There's a new system called the PIA, Partnership Intermediary. But long story short, it makes government applications a lot easier. Traditionally, DOE applications can be dozens, if not hundreds of pages. This lets us streamline it. The application, we use submittable.com. The application for the grant funding is like 5 pages long tops. The idea is we're trying to reach out to non-conventional folks, people who are not traditionally applying for grant funding from DOE. So we want to make it as accessible, straightforward, and simple as possible. Right, and then if to get a qualified assessment, it's one of these 3 sources. If you're a third-party assessor, you can apply to be deemed equivalent. There's a whole list of the ones we've qualified so far. We just closed our 3rd round of applications for grant funding, which we'll be announcing soon. And then the next round is open right now because we're open year round and on a rolling basis. For the grant funding, here's how to apply. We have quarterly informational office hours. People can log in and ask us questions directly, and we'll answer them. We have a long list of FAQs of all kind of interesting edge cases on the on our opportunity website. And then again, quarterly deadlines. The next upcoming ones are July 1st and October 1st. Also quickly point out, since we're among family and friends, if you're interested in serving as a reviewer, we're also always looking for folks who are qualified to review applications. External DOE folks are eligible for compensation for your time. If you have an expertise in I think most people on this call do, energy projects and energy efficiency and assessments, you can serve as a reviewer for our applications. So you can shoot me a note if you're interested in that. Quickly, I'm not sure if folks on this call will be applying directly, but if you are spreading the word and people have questions, there are some tips for a strong application. Quite frankly, we really actually have a high acceptance rate. We're not looking to be picky. We want to get the funding out. We want to support manufacturers. You just have to meet the criteria. So one of the main reasons applicants have failed so far is that they're not listing recommendations listed in the assessment report. They're saying, hey, we want to do this without backing it up. Basing recommendations on the assessment reports are how we validate the legitimacy of the projects in question. Folks have just not even bothered to fill out parts of the application, which it's already very straightforward and simple. If they don't even say anything on certain sections, we can't adequately judge if they're good or not. Eligibility, it is kind of strict, but it's the law. It's how it's written. So just make sure you're eligible based on what's stated in the application page. Also I'll say people have applied and failed and then applied again and then succeeded because they improved the application. And we are starting now to get repeat applications too, because now folks are eligible for up to $300,000 per funding round. So hopefully that'll help people come back for more. People can ask questions anytime. info@energyworks.org is the folks who are managing the opportunity for us, but you can shoot me a note. That info link is actually, they're very responsive. They look at it every day, and answer within a day, frankly. That is it. I think I left 8 minutes for Q&A if there is any.
Sweet. Oh, I got questions, Clifton.
Oh,
You're
okay.
not
Yes,
out of
yes,
here.
let's
Yeah,
do it.
yeah. No, this is great. Much appreciated. I wanted to talk about the second opportunity a little bit around the assessments and the different ways. So if these integrators that are on this call, for example, want to get the word out, folks need an assessment, and they want to do it as quickly as possible. There's the IACs, and then there's these third parties. You listed 19 groups that have gotten qualified as a DOE assessor. What's the geographic coverage? Like if I'm in, whatever, I'm sure not all 19 of those are helping, all 50 states, SMMs in all 50 states. So how do you get connected to the right ones,
That's a good question. I think we should be better. I should start having a map with all the ones plotted out. First of all, the ISCs are very well spread out, and they'll basically look at anyone within 150-mile radius of them. So the ISCs, as an ISC person, I would recommend going first to the ISCs. That's our proven program. The on-site taps are regional as well. So there's 7 regions, I think. So they look at everyone in their region. So that's also an option. That's free. It's a government program. Third-party assessors are a mix. Some are state and very regional focused. Some are national. So Cascade Energy is a national organization. I'm forgetting the names of some other ones. But there's really no shortage of options. And of course, I'd say we've been telling people, even if you don't apply for grant funding, get an assessment, because it's a good blueprint for you to make improvements, whether now or in the future.
What's the ballpark turnaround time? So let's say I contact an IAC this week, and because I've got a manufacturer, and the manufacturer says, hey, I want to get an assessment. I'm sure it varies widely in terms of the turnaround time, but can you just give some ballpark examples of how it could roll out for folks?
It is tough. It differs by IAC. I would say anywhere between 1 to 3 months to go through the whole process. To apply, to talk to the IAC, to discuss data, your facility, to actually schedule the on-site assessment, for them to actually take time to compile the assessment report and then give it back to them. I will say we've been coordinating pretty closely with the IACs and companies who are applying for grant funding. They'll say hey, I'm expecting my assessment report next week. Can I apply for grant funding now? And we'll be like, that sounds about right. By the time we review the assessment report, will be in hand. And again, there's no huge rush, because we do the application period is open year round, and we have a lot of money left. I don't think we're going to be done by the end of this year, frankly. So there's lots of opportunity.
So you get the report back.
Yep.
You know, there's an item in there that says, hey, you know, heat pumps.
Yep.
Cost $300,000.
Yeah.
And then either the manufacturer funds that with a loan, or half of it with a loan, or some other local grant or something like that, and then you fund the other half.
That's right. Yeah, and actually, the application, as soon as you get the assessment report, that's really the hard part. The application itself can take like half an hour to an hour. It's not a lot. Also, there's no. I think we might have a minimum of $5,000 for the application funding, but previously we had projects as small as $2,000 for LED lighting. Folks were happy to apply for it, and then we're happy to grant it. So we're not looking at just big stuff. We want to do big stuff. We want to do ambitious stuff, but we're funding everything. So we had several, small scale LED lighting projects that people applied for grant funding for, and we were happy to give it out.
Great. I got another question, but I want to stop here. We have 4 minutes left, and I've dominated it. Any other questions for Clifton before I get back to mine?
Let me stop my share so I can add the links in the chat.
Oh, good. Yeah, please do that, Clifton, and you drop your email if you can, so folks.
Yes. That's one. This is 2. Did I miss any questions in the chat?
I didn't see any. I do have I was curious about, you had in the small print the definition of a small, medium-sized manufacturer, and like our kind of take on the assessment of, how many we have, 250,000 in the country. Some of the stuff from MEP is like something like 96% of those are small and medium-sized manufacturers. How much of our, what percentage does your definition include, or have you guys done that assessment? I'm guessing it's almost all manufacturers it applies to, right?
That's a good question. I don't think we've done that kind of analysis. Just given the number of SMMs out there that we know exist, we've just been trying to spread the word as widely as possible.
No, I get it. Yeah.
There's so many competing opportunities right now. It's great. It's a very good time to be in our field. We work closely with the MEPs to kind of get the word out as well. One of the MEPs is actually a qualified third-party assessor. They've applied separately, and we qualified them. I'll also point out there are some edge cases. So water and wastewater facilities also count as manufacturers under our definition. So does controlled environment agriculture, CEA. This is kind of a gray zone, like greenhouse agriculture is kind of basically what it is. So we were always trying to push the envelope a little bit with these kind of edge cases. And also finally, another carve out, eligibility. If the facility in question pays taxes separately as an LLC, but it's part of a larger parent company, eligibility is actually based on the facility, the individual LLC, and not the parent company. So we have some cases with large conglomerates, but all their facilities are separate legal entities. Under that, in that case, they qualify as an SMM. Is basically so.
Well, that's great, Clifton. Thank you for being on. It's great to have so many folks on here. Gabby Seltzer, new Economic Recovery Corps Fellow, participating in our call. Welcome, Gabby. Be good to get to know you and so many of the Economic Recovery Corps young people. We need an army of folks across the country learning how to do this and doing it all better. Welcome, Shalini. I saw your note. We record this and we put this. Oh, David put that in the chat there. All these slides are available on our website, with the recording. And want to say thank you, Clifton, and I'll turn it back to you, Michelle, to close out the call.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Clifton, for the presentation on the IACs. I hope everyone will take advantage. With that, everyone, we wish you a wonderful week and happy Eclipse watching if you're doing that today as well. And we will see you back here at the same time, same place. Have a great week.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.